The sun beat down on the vast, shimmering expanse of the savannah, turning the golden grasses into a sea of liquid light. A relentless heat shimmered above the horizon, distorting the distant acacias into wavering mirages. Near a vital, muddy waterhole, a formidable coalition of 5 male lions moved with the quiet, inherent confidence of kings. Their tawny coats blended seamlessly with the sun-baked earth, their powerful muscles rippling beneath their skin with every silent step. They were the undisputed rulers of this domain, their presence alone enough to send tremors of respect and fear through the smaller creatures that shared their territory. The air was still, heavy with the scent of dust and distant rain, when a sound ripped through the silence, not the familiar cry of a bird, nor the gentle whisper of the wind, but a desperate, frantic thrashing. Drawn by the violent disturbance, the lions emerged from the tall grass, their amber eyes narrowing as they surveyed the unfolding drama. What they saw was a scene of primal terror, a tableau of life and death that played out countless times on these plains. A massive African rock python, a muscular titan of the grasslands, its scales glinting like polished obsidian, had coiled its immense body around a tiny, helpless zebra foal. The foal, tragically separated from its herd, was losing its life breath, by agonizing breath, its small body convulsing in the python's relentless embrace. In a world governed by the harsh economics of survival, an opportunity like this was a gift, a rare stroke of incredible fortune. A predator's work was dangerous, exhausting, and often fruitless. To find a meal already captured, already subdued, was the kind of windfall that could mean the difference between a full belly and another hungry night. The expected narrative was simple, brutal, and entirely logical. The lions would wait. They would allow the python to expend its immense energy, to fully suffocate the struggling foal, and then, with minimal effort, they would move in and claim the prize. It was the efficient, cold calculus of the wild, a narrative as old as the savannah itself. Miles away, a man named Ethan, a seasoned ranger with 2 decades of field experience, watched the scene unfold through a pair of powerful binoculars. He had witnessed countless hunts, countless moments of life and death that defined this land. His mind, honed by decades of observation, predicted the outcome with grim certainty. He saw the lions emerge, their magnificent forms silhouetted against the blinding sun, and he waited for them to position themselves for the inevitable theft. But the lions did not spread out. They did not creep closer. Instead, they did something utterly baffling. They lined up, almost in a formal procession, shoulder to shoulder, on the edge of the clearing. And they simply watched. An eerie, unnerving stillness fell over them. There was no growling, no licking of lips, no predatory glint in their eyes. No sign of impending action. Ranger Ethan lowered his binoculars for a second, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. This was wrong. This defied everything he knew about these magnificent beasts. Everything he had learned about the intricate, merciless dance of predator and prey. The air was thick with the foal's panicked gasps, the horrifying sound of the python's powerful muscles contracting. Yet the 5 masters of the savannah remained motionless, like ancient, golden statues. Their silence was a mystery, far deeper and more compelling than any roar. What were they waiting for? Ethan's mind raced through the possibilities. Were they wary of the python's size? An adult rock python was a formidable foe, capable of injuring even a lion. But 5 of them? The risk was minimal, almost negligible. He zoomed his lens in closer, focusing on their eyes. He saw no fear. He saw only an intense, focused observation that he could not decipher. This was not the behavior of opportunistic scavengers. It was something else entirely. An unreadable chapter in the Book of the Wild, a page he had never encountered before. As the seconds stretched into minutes, a subtle shift occurred. It started with the youngest lion in the coalition, a powerful but still somewhat impulsive male. Its ears flattened against its skull, and a low, guttural growl rumbled deep in its chest. It was a sound not of hunger, but of agitation, of something akin to frustration. It was as if this lion, less beholden to the old callous rules, found the scene of prolonged suffering intolerable. That single growl was the spark. It rippled through the pride, and the energy of the standoff changed in a heartbeat. The lead lion, the largest and most magnificent of the five, took one decisive step forward. The python, sensing the new formidable threat, momentarily ignored its prey. It lifted its head, its black, unblinking eyes fixing on the lions, and a loud, menacing hiss echoed across the clearing. For a breathtaking moment, the savannah held its breath. Then, a roar tore through the silence. But it was a roar of intervention, not of predation. The lions surged forward in a wave of tawny muscle and righteous fury. But their target, shockingly, was not the helpless foal. They bypassed the easy meal entirely and launched a coordinated assault on the great snake. The lead lion didn't bite, but instead used its massive paw to swat and claw at the thick coils wrapped around the zebra, forcing the python to loosen its deadly grip. Simultaneously, another lion darted to the rear and clamped its jaws onto the snake's tail, creating a painful and powerful distraction. The attack was a whirlwind of calculated chaos.
They were not trying to kill the python, they were working together with a singular, unbelievable purpose: to free its victim. Zoologically, this was an anomaly. While lions are legendary for their cooperative hunting strategies, this kind of unified defensive action on behalf of another species is almost unheard of. It was a display that defied scientific categorization. In a desperate, panicked frenzy, the overwhelmed and injured python uncoiled and slithered away, vanishing into the safety of the tall grass. The fight was over. The dust began to settle, and the thunder of roars faded into the heavy air. The immediate danger had passed. The baby zebra, free from the crushing coils, collapsed onto the soft earth. It lay there, its sides heaving, its small body bruised and trembling, too weak and traumatized to even attempt to stand. This was the moment, the perfect opportunity, an easy, effortless meal for the victors, a reward for their bizarre battle. Every instinct, every law of nature dictated that they would now claim their prize. But they did not. In what was perhaps the most profound and astonishing moment of the entire saga, the lion's aggression simply melted away. Their heavy panting subsided. They looked down at the tiny, vulnerable creature at their paws, and then they looked at each other. One by one, they lay down. They didn't leave, they settled, forming a loose, protective circle around the foal, their powerful bodies creating a living shield. Their posture was not one of rest, but of vigilance. They had become sentinels. They were now its guardians. Through his binoculars, Ranger Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine despite the blistering heat. He was a scientist, a man of facts and observable data, but what he was seeing belonged more to the realm of myth. He watched as a hyena, drawn by the earlier commotion, crept out from the bush. Instantly, the lead lion lifted its head and let out a low, warning growl. The hyenas scattered. The lions were actively protecting the foal. Ethan began to write in his journal, his hand unsteady, trying to capture the sheer impossibility of the scene. From the foal's perspective, the terrifying golden giants that had just engaged in a violent battle had become silent, warm mountains of safety. The world, which had been a nightmare of pain and pressure, was now quiet. It was a sacred, inexplicable truce, a moment of grace held in the heart of the unforgiving savannah. This fragile peace could not last. The foal was weak, and the sun was relentless. Ranger Ethan knew that without intervention, it would not survive. He had to act. But that meant walking into the middle of a pride of 5 male lions. He took a deep breath, put his vehicle in gear, and began to drive slowly toward the clearing. He didn't race in. He approached with a slow, deliberate respect. The lions watched him come. As his vehicle drew to a stop, there was no aggression, no challenging roars, no defensive postures. They simply watched him, their amber eyes filled with an intelligence that seemed to understand his intent. As Ethan cautiously stepped out of the vehicle, the lead lion stood up. It gave one last long look at the foal, then turned and looked directly at Ethan. It was a silent, profound transfer of trust. Then, with a quiet authority, it led its pride away, melting back into the grasslands from which they came. Ethan approached the foal, his heart pounding with a mixture of awe and adrenaline. He gently examined the small creature, providing water and tending to its bruises. He then carefully lifted it and placed it in his vehicle. For the next hour, he tracked the foal's family, finally spotting the black and white stripes of the herd by another waterhole. He opened the door and the foal, now stronger, stumbled out and trotted directly toward its mother, who greeted it with anxious, loving nudges. The family was whole again. What Ranger Ethan witnessed that day was not nature's law being broken. It was a glimpse of its capacity to evolve, a powerful testament that the rules of the wild are perhaps more like guidelines, capable of being rewritten by something that looks extraordinarily like empathy. On that sun-drenched morning, 5 predators chose to be protectors. They taught us that compassion is not a uniquely human trait, and that even in the heart of the wildest places on Earth, there is room for breathtaking, unbelievable grace. The python's cruel grip was broken, the innocent saved, and a family reunited. A true victory for the unexpected kindness of the wild. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe for more incredible tales from the animal kingdom.